Good morning, Ashley. Good to see you. Nope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know where it is? There behind the main desk. You should see John is at the desk there. So just tell him you need to reset your password, okay? Morning. Good to see everyone. Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. Okay. No worries. Just want to show you really fast, but just for example, reciprocals are helpful when we need to kind of get rid of a fraction, because if we take a fraction times its reciprocal, regardless of whatever fraction we get, any fraction times its reciprocal gives us 1, right? Because 4 times 5 is 20, 5 times 4 is 20, and we know from here, right, that any fraction over itself is 1. And so reciprocals come into play when we need to kind of, oftentimes with algebra. But anyway, just wanted to let you guys think about that as far as why reciprocals are important. It's kind of, like I said, one of those key characteristics that all fractions have. And the reason why we use it is because sometimes we need to kind of, right, multiply, do something to make a fraction become a 1 so it's easier to deal with. Okay? All right. So let's see what we've got here. We labeled equivalent fractions. We labeled a fraction equal to 1. We labeled a simplified fraction. We got the numerator, denominator, reciprocal. Okay, so we're left with 3 boxes and 3 terms. Okay? So we have ratio, rate, and proportion. So if we look at the last 3 remaining unlabeled boxes down here, and we're down to these 3 choices, what do you guys think? 30 miles per gallon, is that a proportion, a ratio, or a rate? Oh, Mel says it's a rate. No, it is a ratio, but it's a special kind of ratio that we call a rate. Good. Okay. So Mel, can you tell us what a rate is? It's okay if you can't. So yes, every rate is a ratio. However, right, this is more a rate than a ratio. And so a rate, generally our denominator is going to be 1, right? And that's what makes it a rate. So 30 miles per 1 gallon, right? 55 miles per 1 hour. Okay. 300 words per hour. I don't know if that's a lot. Oh, they always do per minute. That's right. I don't know. Okay. So yes, all rates are ratios, but when generally we're kind of using it like this and our denominator is 1, so that we kind of represent it more as like a whole number almost, then as a fraction, we want to call that a rate. Okay, how about here? 5 cakes in 8 hours would be like 25 cakes in 40 hours. What are we going to call or label this? Good, correct, Mel. This is our proportion. Okay, and my feelings are hurt. You guys didn't remember. No, I'll be okay. All right. And so then we would know, right, that down here is where we have our friend, the ratio. Okay. So these are important terms. This was unit 1. If you missed unit 1 that started back in August, you can go back in your math book and review. But remember, a ratio is a relationship between two numbers, okay? So 24 inches of snowfall in 5 hours represents, right, an accumulation of snow. We represent that as a ratio of inches fallen to hours they took to fall. Now, a ratio becomes a proportion, right, when we take one ratio and find an equivalent fraction, right, either greater or less than our original ratio to help us, right? So basically the ratio kind of sets the rate that we're going to climb, right? So for every 8 hours in the kitchen, I can produce 5 cakes. So if I need to produce 25 cakes, then I would have to say, okay, that's going to take me 40 hours, right? So proportions, right, help you keep things in scale or to proportion and either make them larger or smaller within that, right, ratio. If we change the ratio, then, right, we're going to mess up our proportions. And if you guys remember our recipe activity, right, if we don't upscale our recipe correctly and keep the ingredients in proportion, we're probably not going to make something that tastes very good. Okay, so please don't forget proportions, ratios, and rates. They definitely are going to be on GED math and GED science. Okay. And once again, proportions can come in really handy, right? We were using them with our percents and stuff. Okay. And of course, yeah. All right. Questions about any of these 12 terms? And so there is some overlap, but we're either going to be more specific or less specific. So that's the other thing to note, right? We know something is more than just a simple fraction when it has units. If it has these units stuck on it, then we might want to start thinking, is this a rate? Is it a ratio? Do I need to create a proportion, set up a proportion, something like that? Okay. All right. No questions. Okay. So really quickly, just to practice here a little bit, a yard contains 36 inches. So 21 inches would be what fraction of a yard? Can anyone answer that first little question there? Hmm?
7/12.
Good. How'd you get that?
Just put the 21 over 36 and then simplify it.
Beautiful. So hopefully everyone caught what Angel said. So yeah, right? Here's our part, right? 21. And we know that our whole consists of 36. We have 21 of our 36. So that would be our fraction, but our final step always is, can we simplify this? Is there something I can evenly divide out of the top to the bottom? And I can, right? I can evenly divide a 3 out of the top and the bottom to simplify this. 21 divided by 3 is 7. 36 divided by 3 is 12. Beautiful. Questions? If I'm going too fast, slow me down. I don't mind. Okay. So, when they're asking you to just create that, right? How many parts do you have and how many total parts are within your given whole? So here we have 36 whole inches in 1 yard, and we have 21 of those. Okay. How about the second question? Which fractions in this list are less than 1/2? Can anyone answer that?
The two middle ones, 7/15 and 4/9.
Good. And how do you know that?
I just did it because the top numbers are lower.
What do you mean?
Like if the which fraction in the list are less
Uh-huh.
than half, so that means the top one should be at least less than the bottom one.
Yes. Yes, I get what you're saying. Yeah, so you can kind of assess the size of a fraction by looking at kind of the distance between the numerator and the denominator. So if the denominator, or sorry, excuse me, if the numerator is less than half of the denominator, then right, that means that it's less than half, right? It's closer to 0 than to 1. Okay. And you can always kind of think about it on that scale, right? Kind of 0 and 1 is kind of our midpoint. So do we have very, very, very little, almost 0, or do we have almost 1? Are you saying they're all less than 1/2, Brian? So of course we know that, right? 7 is less than half of 15. 4 is less than half of 9. Now, what about 3/6? Is it greater than, less than, or equal to 1/2?
Equal to.
Equal to. Good. How do you know that, Dustin? Sorry. You just do? It's okay if you just do.
Reduced to simple.
So it simplifies to 1/2, so we know they're equivalent. And of course, if your numerator is exactly half your denominator, then you have half, right? And then of course here, if your denominator is more than half, or sorry, if your goodness gracious guys, I'm so sorry. If your numerator is more than half your denominator, then it's larger than 1/2, okay? So we have equal to 1/2, right? And then this one is greater. Okay. So yeah, so when you look at fractions, it's always helpful to kind of have that ability to kind of say, is this a really big fraction, right? Are the numerator and denominator close in value? Are we getting close to having one whole? Or, right, is there so much space between the numerator and the denominator that it's getting closer and closer to 0? And we have very, very, very little, right? Okay. So we talked about reducing to lowest term. So hopefully everyone still feels good about that. How would we write 11 5/8 as an improper fraction? Beautiful. Good. So 8 times 11 is 88. 88 plus 5 is 93. And then we just throw on our same denominator. Good. So once again, it's like our proper fractions have equivalent decimal and percent forms. Same between, right, improper and mixed. Okay. And then what would 50/12 be as a mixed number? 4. Good. 4 and 1/6. So we divide 50 by 12. It goes into 12 4 times with 2 left over. And then I should reduce my 2 12s to 1/6 by dividing it 2 out of 2. All right. How would we change 3/4 to 12? So basically it's saying, right, we need to find an equivalent form. So we're actually kind of making basically a proportion here. But you can also just look and say, okay, if I need to go from 4ths to 12ths, what did I have to do to 4 to get it to 12? What did I have to multiply or divide? 3, right? I have to multiply by 3. So just do the same up top. 3 times 3 is 9. So change 3/4 to 12ths. So 3/4 would be 9/12. They're equivalent. Okay. Questions? Like I said, we're just kind of doing a quick review here. So, don't feel like you have to master this stuff, but, kind of expect to need to know it. If you're feeling lost just on this kind of basic, and you feel like you need more basic, practice, just let me know. But we're not gonna focus too much on this, but it is kind of our foundation like it is. Okay. Adding fractions is kind of hard because if your fractions that you're adding have if your fractions have different denominators, before you can do your adding step, you have to find equivalent forms. So you'll probably need to change. And so I look at my two denominators and I say, what is the common denominator that they share? Fortunately for this example, 8 is a common denominator, so I don't have to worry about my 1/8, but I have to change my 3/4 to 8s. Okay, so now that I have a common denominator, I can add. And so when you add fractions, you keep the common denominator and just add your numerators. So 3/4 plus 1/8, 1/8 is 7/8. Okay. The same is true when you subtract. I have to find a common denominator. Luckily 10 works. Okay. But the same thing happens. Find your common denominator, put it into those equivalent forms, and then subtract your numerators, keep your denominator. And of course, if I needed to reduce after adding or subtracting, I could, but I didn't have to there. Okay. Like I said, don't worry about it too much, but I just want to make sure everyone has a little bit of a sense for what you have to do there. But mostly we're going to be multiplying. And of course, your calculator could do that as well and save yourself a lot of time. All right, when you multiply fractions, it's pretty easy. You just multiply your numerators and multiply your denominators and then see if you need to reduce. Okay. 20/30ths, it cannot be reduced. Okay. All right. Dividing fractions, so like I said, multiplying fractions is kind of the easiest. It's very straightforward compared to adding and subtracting. Dividing isn't too hard. There's just one additional step. So I keep my first fraction. Okay. Then I'm going to change my division sign to a multiplication sign, but I'm going to then use the reciprocal of my second fraction. And now I can do my multiplying step. Now, when you multiply fractions, the other thing that you can do is you can either cross reduce at the beginning or you can reduce at the end. Either way works, or you can put it in a calculator. But here I see I have a 12 and a 7. They have common factors like 3. So I'll take a 3 out of here and a 3 out of here, right? 12 divided by 3 is 4. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Now I'm going to do my multiplying and I end up with 32/35. And I believe that is simplified as well. Okay. Questions, comments, thoughts, concerns? So that's just a really quick overview of fractions. Mhm,
On that, fraction,
mhm.
isn't it 10? If you keep it to the same,
7/10.
1/10.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I didn't finish the problem. Thank you. Good call. Was that what you were trying to tell me about, Ryan? I was very confused. I still have no idea where you're talking. And you cried wolf so many times. I don't really trust your comment. Thank you. Okay. We're not combining like terms either anyway. We're working with fractions, not expressions. Okay. Before we hop into unit 3 of our math, I want to just show you guys one thing. Sorry. Start over here. Gather. Okay, so I sent out a message to everyone, and if you're like brand new and just starting out, this isn't going to apply to you right now, but I sent out a message on Remind because my goal for this week, and I'll start sending them out pretty shortly, is to send everyone a progress report. So that since we're kind of, we ended a session, we're starting a new session, I want everyone to kind of have an update or the most updated information about their progress in the class. So I made a form, of course, because you know me and my love of forms. I'm gonna pull up a sample here. Hopefully. All right, and so I know I tried to send these as text messages last time. I sent some out in August and then when we ended the first summer session, but I want this to be a resource, hopefully, that will, be helpful to you guys. Just download this, hopefully. Okay. So it'll be a PDF that, and like I said, let me know. I was just planning on emailing them, although for in-person students, I can also print them out for you guys. But basically, what this shows you is, of course, it'll have your name and it'll have your registration date. So, think about that. Think about when you started. That would have been the very first registration form that you filled out. Okay. So kind of think about your timeline that you plan during goal setting. Are you feeling like you're good within your timeline? Do you feel like now that you've been doing class, maybe this is going to take a little longer or shorter than I thought, and fortunately you don't get, it's not like you get penalized or anything for your time here or anything. And so then the next piece of information is really important, right? It's your current class attendance hours. So this is the current amount of hours that you've accumulated from the time you started orientation until whenever I filled out the form. And you can see I made this tester out on today. So this student has 40 hours. Hopefully you guys remember kind of how our class or how our program works. And so we measure progress in class hours. And so when you have obtained 40 hours, then we're going to give you a progress test. progress test is similar to the placement test you took during orientation. And then of course we compare, right, the placement test to the progress test and hopefully see progress. So if you have taken a progress test, you'll see that date here. Okay. So once again, look at that. If there is a date here, if there's no date, then that means, right, that you need to get your number up to 40. Okay. All right. And then next is your current skill level. So this is from your placement test. So what level of difficulty of test are you taking? Okay. And then here's your exact level. So my test difficulty is level D for math and reading, M for language, okay? And if you look down here, adult ed levels go from 1 to 6, and a level 4 and a score of 550 is the range will be most confident of GED readiness. Now this says, right, you could have lower scores than 550 and level 4 and still pass the GED test, but that, you know, this is the range we're most confident, okay? But you can still try it because, you know, sometimes you just have a really good day, or maybe your placement test was a really bad day, you know, so don't feel like this is telling you you can't take a practice test or try or anything like that. Just, you know, kind of lets you know where we feel the most confident. And generally we would say maybe you need to do 40 more hours of class and really try and hit these targets. And then if you remember, similar to goal setting, I added this also. So if I'm level 4 out of 550, if I wanted to get to level 5 in reading, I would have to get up to 576. Now, what this is telling us is if you're level 5, you're probably going to be okay passing the GED test, right? And so you don't necessarily have to get to level 5, but you can, and we're not going to like say it's bad or anything. Okay. So this kind of tells you your current skill level. Does everyone kind of remember this and hopefully feel like you understand what it's telling you? Okay. So make sure you kind of look at what it says your current skill levels are. And of course, if you're close to progress testing, you know, see how close you are to 30, or sorry, to 40, kind of see where you're at. Okay, the next chunk of the progress report just talks about where you're at as far as your GED practice tests and your actual GED exams. Now, if you're still, you know, working on getting your 40 hours, you know, don't feel a lot of pressure to have worked on this stuff yet. Usually we wait till after the first progress test to kind of talk more about this, unless your placement test was like really super strong and you were like coming in at level 5. And like, you don't need a, okay. But so this is the official GED practice test. Now, some of you guys who are with us through the summer, we did that as part of our summer program. You're always welcome to ask. Oh, I'm so sorry, Garrett. Thank you. Goodness gracious. Wow. Thank you, Garrett. How long did that take me to figure out? Okay. I'm so sorry for you guys on Zoom. Here's this is the progress report that I'm going to be sending out to you guys, okay? So it just kind of shows you where you're at, okay? So on the practice test, there's kind of 3 outcomes. You can get a red score, which says you're not likely to pass, which means do more class with me. Yellow means it's really too close. You might do okay, but not super confident. And then green means you either got a passing score or higher, okay? And so usually if you have your, you know, you're on target with your placement test and your progress test scores, plus your practice test scores, if those are both saying you're ready, then we'll say, go ahead and take your actual GED exams, okay? But everyone should stop and take the Arizona Civics test, okay? So this will kind of tell you where you are along the GED pathway. If you're not here yet, like I said, don't worry. If you're focusing on getting up to 40 hours in a progress test, focus on that. Okay. So I do have, so the next part, I have kind of a list, like a checklist. So you wouldn't see all of these here, but this is what I put in here. But I put your suggested next steps. So based on all of the information that's up at the top of this report, now what do I do, right? What does this tell me I should do? And so I will suggest either continuing to attend class to get 40 hours so you can progress test. A lot of you guys, especially if you just started out, are going to be there. If you haven't been regularly attending, I might encourage you to return or join classes. Please remember you're free and clear to do as much or as little class as you want or can, okay? So don't feel like you ever have to just go to the classes you originally chose. I might suggest that you schedule a coaching session with me just so we can talk about some things and kind of have a one-on-one conversation. If you're at or have more than 40 hours, I'll say schedule your progress test, okay? And I'll bug you, okay? I can send you a link. You can also contact Linda right at the front desk here. She is the person who coordinates all the testing, so she could help you sign up for a progress test as well. Just ask, okay? Say, Julie said you could help me sign up for a progress test, and she'll be able to help you, I'm pretty sure. If you're already look like you're GED ready, I will suggest that you contact or that you take a GED ready practice test. Excuse me. The practice tests are they're on GED.com. We have vouchers. They cost $6 each, but we have vouchers, so don't feel like you have to buy them yourself. You can, but ask me or Daniel, and we can give you a voucher so you can take it for free. And once again, we use kind of the GED ready practice test to confirm that you'll, plus with your progress tests and stuff. So it gives us additional data to confirm if you're GED ready or not, okay? If you have taken some GED practice tests, oftentimes then it will create a score report of its own to kind of tell you the areas you need to practice specifically to pass the GED test based on your practice test. So we're able to assign lessons to you based on that. So if you've taken a practice test and I'm saying, work on your score report lessons, and then we can either retake the practice test or if you feel ready for it, okay? If you passed your practice tests, then I might say, hey, your next step is to take the darn test. Go schedule the test. Now, if you need help with funding or something like that, let me know. Okay. And then I might also suggest that you contact us, although for you guys, if you're regularly attending, then you wouldn't see that as a step. Okay. So I try to, help you know where you're at and know what to do next. So look at those suggested next steps. They are suggested, okay? They are not mandatory. I'm not going to send my goons after you if you don't do these next steps, but at least you'll know hopefully what you could do or should be doing in my mind, in my expert opinion. And then lastly, I just talk about the area of greatest concern. So if there is something that I'm kind of noticing, but probably most of you guys in class here, I'll say none, you're doing great, keep doing what you're doing, right? Which is just follow your suggested steps, stay on the path you're on. And then usually I write like a personal note as well with specific steps or suggestions. Sometimes I ask for things. So if there's a comment below here, and then of course you're welcome to contact me. Okay. So be ready to see this in your email. If I didn't get you one, let me know. Okay. But hopefully this will be a good way of keeping us all up to date on where we're at, so you don't feel like you're just kind of spinning your wheels, okay? Yes, Eddie?
I got a copy.
Yeah, like I said, I will, for you guys here in class, maybe once I get you guys working or, throughout the rest of the week. If you come in person, I can print them out for you personally. Um, but yes, so if you're coming in person, I can print them out. I can, like I said, I can maybe work on that right at the end of class. If you guys are brand new, like Dustin or Josephine, of course, I won't have any progress for you to report, but just go off of your goal setting sheets. But, yeah, so like I said, my goal is to have those ready, throughout this week. So I have a pretty good chunk of them ready, but, still got a few to work on, so. Mostly evening class, unfortunately. Okay, so yes, you will be getting a copy. Um, okay. Any other questions about the progress report? Hopefully it makes sense. Hopefully you feel like it's useful information that makes sense to you, what it's telling you. And of course, any feedback or input that you can provide is always welcome. All right. Questions, comments, concerns? Okay, Len. All right, we got about half an hour. We'll go ahead and hop into our math book. And we're going to start unit 3 today, which I believe starts on page 63, if I remember from last night. Yes. All right. And as I had mentioned before, we've been kind of learning about our mathematical applications associated with fractions. And so probability is also going to be one of those applications, okay? Before we get into probability, we're going to look at a related topic, of course, as well, which you will see on the GED test. And this is a little bit more logic-based. And we'll see how we do, okay? It should say 63 in the bottom middle is the page numbers I'm referring to, Eddie. 63, I think. Neo, did you remember your book, or should I print this chunk off for you?
I have to really get it.
Okay, no worries, bro.
What time do you want me to do that?
Today? Yeah, can you come at 2:30?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Thanks. We'll see you then.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So as you can see up here, it's talking about counting strategies. And so similar to what we've seen as far as the typical kinds of ratios, proportions, and percent type word problems, another category or style of word problem that we might encounter is what they're calling a counting problem here, right? And so here we're going to count the possible ways something could happen. And this does hopefully kind of, if you have any sense of what probability is, right, has to do with this, how many possible, combinations are possible with what we have, okay? And so we're going to, of course, have some mathematical ways, but sometimes if it's simple enough, you can kind of map it out without having to do any scary math calculating, okay? And so it's really similar to what we saw before. It's about organizing and just counting carefully. which usually for me is like not counting something twice. Okay, so let's look at the example here on the first page. So the Parkers are taking a photograph of their 4 children, Alan, Bianca, Callie, and Dennis. Maybe that's why I keep calling you Dennis, Dustin, because Dennis was in this problem. Right? We went through this last night. That's where Dennis came from. They plan to stand in a line. So how many different ways can the children be lined up? Okay. So basically they can use the first letter of each of the kids' names, right? To then basically decide, okay, right? If we start with Alan at the beginning, I can arrange them in, right, 6 different ways if Alan is the first. Okay. And I can also arrange them in 6 different ways if Bianca is first. Same with Callie being first and Dennis. So if we begin to kind of organize in this way, we start by saying, okay, if I put 1 person at the beginning, how many total combinations can I make with that 1 person being at the beginning? And I know that the same number of combinations is going to happen for the remaining 2 people. Yes, Ryan, you are correct. So there's 24 possible ways in all, right, to arrange the kids. Okay. So like I said, this is really kind of an organization problem. But there is some math that could maybe make this a little bit easier eventually, but how does this feel? Does everyone kind of see how they're mapping out the problem and how they get from 4 children standing in a line? I have 24 combinations of the line I could make. So if you carefully organize your work, you can often see a pattern that will help you count the possibilities. Okay, so you always want to kind of think about how you want to organize it. Once you know that there's 6 ways that start with Alan, you can conclude that there will be 6 ways for each child. And since, of course, there's 4 total children, that gives us a total of 24 possibilities. Okay? So I know this might feel like, for me, it feels very overwhelming. Hopefully not for you guys. But hopefully that makes sense. So it's like if you can kind of find these patterns as you organize and begin to realize, okay, for each child, right, there's going to be 6 combinations with them in that first position in the photo. And then I would know, or I could conclude that that would be true of all of the other 3 children. Okay. So a diagram is another way you might have to organize your work. So here at the bottom of page 64, there's another example. So here we see Emily. Emily wants to wear red, white, and blue for a holiday. She can choose from 2 pairs of sneakers, blue or white. And then she has 3 shirts, red, white, or blue. 3 pairs of shorts, red, white, or blue. She wants to wear 1 red item, 1 white item, and 1 blue item. So how many outfits can she make? Well, I think you guys agree it does sound complicated, but since we have only 2 colors of shoes, we can start by mapping that out, right? And since you can only have 1 color, or all 3 colors have to be in each, the answer is actually 4, Ryan. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So if she has white shoes on, that means she can either wear blue shirt, red shorts, or red short, blue shirt, or red shirt, blue shorts. That's hard to say, right? If she wears her blue shoes, then we either have white and red as the combination of shirts and shorts. So as you map this out, you can see that she has 4 possible outfits. Okay. Here's 1 outfit, 2 outfits, 3 outfits, 4. I don't know why you would double. Okay. So let's just work together here for a sec on number 1 and kind of talk about it here. Okay. Wow. Okay. So a television network is planning its Thursday night lineup. It has 2 sitcoms, 1 drama, and 1 reality show planned for Thursdays. In how many different orders could the programs be shown? Okay. So we have 4 different shows. Okay. Sorry, I'm like, where's my, yeah. So we have sitcom 1, okay? I think, right? So this is sitcom 1, and so we could do sitcom 1, sitcom 2, reality show. Whoa. Sorry. Darn it. Okay, sorry, just ignore that. Sorry. Turn it. All right, just pay attention. Okay, and then we have to do drama, reality show, sitcom 2, and reality show. All right, so we know that for each show, right, we have 3 combinations of lineup, right? So then if we have 4 total shows, how many different orders would that be? 12? I'm thinking 12. Anyone want to check the answer? I forgot my book. Oh, wait, no, I got one. Because I forgot. Unfortunately. Sorry, just give me 1 sec. Oh, that's what I did wrong. Yeah. Okay.
24?
Yeah, 24. Sorry, I didn't make enough combinations. I only made half the combinations. Okay, let me start over.
Wouldn't be pretty much like step 1.
Yep, it would be exactly like example 1. Yep. Sorry, I keep trying to practice this. It's one of my worst, like, maths. It's one of the ones I had to learn a lot when I started teaching this. So yeah, so we're gonna have 6 combinations per show, 4 total shows, so 24 different orders the shows could come in. Cause this is what I forgot. Sorry, let me do this over. So, um, sitcom 1. So yeah, it's similar to the other one where we have basically 6 orders per show and 4 shows. There we go. So, yeah, that same thing of where you basically have, right? Yep. Okay. Sorry, guys. Like I said, I wish I was a little better at this, but we'll all get to it together. Um, and of course, should also learn some math that will help. Let's look at number 2. See what time is it? Okay. I'm gonna clear my drawings here. Okay. Number 2, a car can seat 2 people in the back and 2 in the front. A mother and her 2 children get in the car, and how many different ways could the family be seated if the mother always has to be the driver and the children can sit, and either child can sit up front? So So I think for here, if we draw a car, now remember the situation is a little bit different, but let's see. So we have our car. Got our outside view of the car. That's the lights of the car. So we have mom is here, and then we have seat 1. And then we have seat 2 and seat 3. Okay. We know that mom always stays in the same spot. And then we have 2 people kind of moving around 3 spots. So any guesses here for how many different combinations they can sit in?
12?
12? Okay, how are you? 4? Okay.
10.
10, okay. How are you guys just guessing or? So 20, okay. So we could have, right, let's see, we can have C3. Let's see, C1 and C3, C1 and C2. and C2. So there's three kind of combinations, right? And then there's two kids. And we know that, right, either kid could be in either one of these, right, seats. Mom's not moving. So I see 6 combinations total. Making sense kind of how these work? Like I said, for me, this is hard stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't learn
well,
this in school.
it
Go ahead.
says- When it says either child can sit up front, is
Mhm.
that, well, I was taking it as child would have to be like sitting in front.
Right.
But I just read it wrong.
Oh, okay. And that's half the battle too, right? It's even processing the question correctly and getting everything in order, but good. Yeah, so you kind of have like 3 positions and then two kind of people to fill either of those. So there'll always be an open empty seat. So if you have 3 kind of open spots, you end up with 3 combinations, but then, right, the 2 kids could be in either spot, so, yeah. So that means there's 6 total. Yeah, it's tricky stuff. And trust me, like I said, these are the ones I have to practice a lot. Questions, thoughts? Like I said, we're just kind of dipping our toe in the water right now, so don't feel like you have to completely 100% understand. These things can be pretty visual. So always just kind of start by trying your best to process the question and organize the information. Let's look at question 3. Okay, number 3. Jan is ordering custom shirts for her business. There are 5 colors and 3 styles to choose from. So how many different choices does she have? So for example, we might have short sleeve, long sleeve, and polo. So there's our 3 styles, right? And then we know, right, for each of the 3 styles, there's 1, 2, 4, 5 colors. So how many different choices are there total?
15.
And I don't know why this one feels so much more easier than the other examples to look at, but like, for some reason, that one's like, yeah, okay. Maybe because I worked in apparel for a while. Okay.
You have 14.
Oh, geez. I don't know what is up with me today. Thank you. Okay. All right, number 4 is different. And so definitely make sure the note makes sense. And so in the figure, how many different line segments can be drawn that connect exactly 2 points? And note that, right? So that's 1, regardless of if it's point B to point A or point A to point B. Oh, did I miss a dot?
15.
15? Mhm. Oh, there is a F down there. Okay, that's why I was like, this isn't working out right. Sorry. Like, oh yeah, there we go. Now that makes more sense. Does everyone? So for this one, because you can only do so many routes, what you have to notice, and I'm sorry I didn't get the whole figure in here, is basically, right, if I take A and I connect it to the other 5 points, right? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So with point A, right, I can make 5 connections. And then the pattern, hopefully you notice, right? I already have my BAAB, so now when I connect B, I can only connect it to the remaining 4 dots since I'm already connected to A. C, right? Now I only need to connect it here and here because it's already connected there. Right, and then D, hopefully you're seeing the pattern, right? D can only connect here, and here. And then there's only 1 connection left, right? Five plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, 50. So. That's what I got. When I add up the 5 numbers.
Yeah.
I know. It's a summoning spell. I don't know what we summoned, but hopefully it's not too evil. Yeah, it does look like a kite. Okay. So we're gonna keep working on these on Thursday. Don't feel, like I said, too overwhelmed because we're gonna get into it more. So if you want to, you could look at page 67. You could look at the remaining problems problems 5 and 6 as well. The answers are at the very end of the unit, so you can always check your answers. But otherwise, we'll pick it up from here on Thursday. And I know it feels a little abrupt, but we're just dipped our toe in the water. So, all right. Any final questions or confusion, anything? And so be checking your email very shortly throughout this week for your progress report. Follow the suggested steps, okay? And think about where you're at, where you want to be, those kinds of things, okay? All right. Thank you guys for working hard. We have language arts tomorrow, if any of you guys want to join. Z, do you know if you can like come in some afternoon this week to start on your progress test? Oh, okay, cool. You might have already told me that or knew that, but